In a quiet village surrounded by dry fields and dusty roads lived a tall gray donkey, strong in body but heavy with pride. A donkey who believed that strength alone made him superior, that wisdom was unnecessary when power could force its way forward. And every day as he carried heavy loads for the villagers, he reminded himself that no one worked harder than him, no one suffered more than him, and no one deserved more respect than him. Yet this constant need for validation slowly poisoned his heart, making him angry, impatient, and blind to advice, especially when it came from others he considered weaker. Not far from the village lived a lean brown jackal, quiet, observant, and thoughtful, who watched the world carefully and spoke only when necessary, understanding that survival depended not on ego but on awareness. And one afternoon, when the donkey loudly complained about his life and mocked those who avoided difficult paths, the jackal gently warned him that ego often disguises itself as confidence and leads even the strongest into danger. But the donkey laughed, calling wisdom cowardice and silence weakness, believing that boldness alone would protect him. Days later, the donkey chose a dangerous shortcut through a deep, muddy marsh to prove his strength and save time, ignoring the jackal's calm advice to wait for the road to dry. And as the donkey stepped proudly into the marsh, his confidence turned into panic as the mud pulled his legs deeper with every struggle. Yet, instead of asking for help, his ego forced him to shout angrily, blaming the land, the weather, and even fate itself, refusing to accept that his pride had led him there. While from the edge of the marsh, the jackal watched silently, knowing that the donkey's real prison was not the mud around him, but the ego inside him. As the sun began to sink and the marsh grew colder, the donkey's strength slowly faded, his legs trembling not from weakness, but from exhaustion caused by fighting instead of understanding. And for the first time in his life, silence surrounded him, forcing him to listen not to praise, but to truth. And when the jackal finally approached, he did not mock or scold, but spoke softly, explaining that ego always demands proof while wisdom seeks safety, that ego shouts while wisdom listens, and that true strength lies not in refusing help, but in recognizing when it is needed. With careful guidance, the jackal showed the donkey how to stop struggling, how to relax his body, and how patience could slowly free him from the mud. And step by step, the donkey followed, not because he was forced, but because he finally trusted. And as he stood free on solid ground, covered in mud and humility, something inside him changed forever. Realizing that his ego had isolated him, blinded him, and nearly destroyed him, while wisdom had quietly waited to save him. From that day forward, the donkey still worked hard, still carried heavy loads, but his heart became lighter, his ears more open, and his pride replaced with gratitude, understanding the most powerful lesson of all, that ego destroys relationships, opportunities, and growth, while wisdom builds survival, peace, and respect. And those who silence their ego do not become weaker, they become free.